Hey, what's up guys and welcome back to Anime King 3, and today I'm going to be giving you What If Naruto Had the Ultimate Nature Bloodline Part 24. Remember to get this to 100 likes as usual, share this to all of your friends in social media platform, and also guys, go ahead and check out the brand new series over on Anime King 2 of What If Naruto Became the Next Avatar, and enjoy that guys. And remember, if you're new and this is the first time you hear my voice, go ahead and click that red subscribe button and become part of the Anime King family. And thank you for all of your help and support. Remember to comment down below and tell me if you're new. I'll be replying talking back to all of you. So yeah, without further ado, what do you say we begin this new episode? Start the intro. So, the last spot we left off. The Raikage was pissed. No, he was furious. He told Oniki straight to his face if they did not have the other villages after them right now. Because of what they started, he would be coming to destroy the Hidden Stone. Oniki had betrayed him, informing him that he had killed the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki while he had it under his control. The Raikage knew that once his war was over, he would use it to take over the rest of the Elemental Nation. And that just showed how dishonest their little partnership was. The Raikage could not trust him. He knew that he could not trust him from the beginning, but this just made things worse. And now, his two Jinchurikis had been taken by that fair boy. The Raikage looked towards Oniki with nothing but pity, as he was pathetic for letting that boy take his two Jinchurikis. But they still had to go to war. They start something, and they had to finish it. They had the numbers. Together, they can muster up 40,000 troops. And not to mention, the Raikage had 8 and the 2 tails. And their villages hadn't been slandered over the past couple of years. They have been training their shinobis and they will be ready. Suddenly, the masked man appeared in the room, shocking everyone as they got ready to fight. But he told them that he had a proposition for them. A way that they can win this war. As he had a smirk on his face as he said the entire thing, under his mask. After all, with the way things are going right now, they needed help. The Akatsuki. Yes, they needed help. So with that out of the way, at Konoha, Tsunade and Ibiki had reported Naruto's psychiatric evaluation. He was fine. Judging from what happened, Ibiki was sure that Naruto was going to be fine, as he himself had put the boy through strenuous torture to make sure that he can stay without breaking. And the boy had it under control, so there was nothing to worry about. Minato obliged by that. As Naruto went back to his apartment, there was a lot to think about on his mind, as he saw Sakura there, along with Minma, both of them making out on his couch. He walked past them, not saying anything, as he broke apart, as he went towards his bedroom. After a moment, Minma came in, as he explained that things just kind of happened between them. As Naruto didn't say anything about it, in fact he was happy for Minma, as he told him what happened. Minma was surprised to hear that Naruto was actually feeling something once again, but Naruto corrected him and told him that he wasn't actually feeling something, but his body was reacting that way. Naruto still didn't understand what it meant by forgiving yourself, as he didn't know what he had to forgive himself for. He couldn't really understand that part. They made their way to the office as Jiraiya was back, as he had some information. They had to take care of the Akatsuki first before starting this war, because the Akatsuki was an oddball, and no one knew when they might show up or do anything out of the way, so they had found the leader. And Naruto insists that they go with him. After all, Konoha needs him in this time, and for him to die would be a drop to Konoha morale. Not to mention, whoever must be controlling those S-rank miscellaneous must be powerful. So with that, they head to the Hidden Rain. As Sakura and Sesame was talking, Sesame told Sakura what happened, as she was her best friend after all. Sakura also told her about her and Minma. She never told her that part because she had a lot on her plate with everything going on, so she never wanted to burden her with that. Sesame always thought that she had a thing for Sasuke, but that seemed to dwindle out. She didn't know what to tell her, but Sasuke was kind of, well, getting chummy with someone in their clan. Sakura said that she was happy for him, as she kind of had feelings for Minma now. Meanwhile, the group had made their way towards the Hidden Rain as they snuck in. The rain came pouring down on them. Nagato felt a chakra as they knew that this was more dangerous than he thought, all three of them pulling up here. So Nagato sent out all of his path when Jiraiya came by. Konan lured him towards the location. Nagato did not hesitate as he was going for the kill. Jiraiya was unprepared, all six of them jumped him at once. They brutally smashed him into the earth. Lucky enough, Minma came there and saved his life, as Jiraiya was in a bad state, although he could still look up at the pains in front of him. As he realized who they were, well, he didn't know exactly. As Naruto arrived, as both him and Minma looked towards all the paths, the Rinnegan looking at them ominously, as Minma stepped by his side, and they were ready to dance. So yeah guys, so basically as we left off, you guys can switch across to the play sector for yourself. So what do you say in this new episode? Minato was looking over the map on the table, as Harrison pointed towards the spot where the Hinrin was. This is the best path that they will take. But given this new development, I'm unsure if they knew the leader of the Hinrin would allow them to pass through. They would have to subjugate the village entirely, so that they could deliver all the rations, everything that is needed for helping them in this war. The Hidden Stone will definitely take to the path of the Hidden Rain. Well, we won't know anything yet until Naruto and the others return. Are you sure that it was wise to send them there? I mean, if this person could control so many S-rank Messinens, I know that three of them combined is quite powerful, but we don't know. I have faith in all of them to return back, said Minato. Whoever this person is, he might be strong. And if things become too risky, if the entire Hidden Rain Shinobis were to get involved, I'm sure that they won't do anything risky. Are you so sure about that? Asked Harrison as he looked towards Minato. As a single thought popped in both of their minds, Naruto. Minato sighed as he looked down. He knew that if things came to it and Naruto found the leader of the Akatsuki, Hidden Rain Shinobis or not, Naruto would not hesitate to attack. Well, Minma and Jiraiya are there. He promised his mother and his sister that he won't do anything stupid and he will come back. That is the only thing he can hold on to right now, said Minato, as he was getting nervous by the minute pass. After all, they were going up against the unknown. Who could even know what was going on there at the very moment? Meanwhile, at the Hidden Rain, to the rest of the village nothing was going on. But, in a far distance, near to the giant tower, there was some streams of pipe that went all around. An explosion rippled out from that point, as two bodies were sent sailing through the air. The both of them flipped as they smashed into the earth, creating small craters under their feet. Jiraiya was currently inside of the dome. It was a dome-like structure being protected by Naruto clones. Well, he wasn't so sure about that as he noticed that the clones were just meditating, but they were being protected by the barrier as well. Jiraiya had gotten the crap beaten out of him. It was a surprise. All six of them jumping him at once. It caught him off guard. He wasn't in a death-like state. He will recover, but jumping into the fight right now would only cause more damage for the boys. But this fight, as he looked up in the skies, he saw Konan flying there. He shouted towards her, "Konan!" But she ignored him, her paper wings stretching out, as she looked down towards the battle that was unfolding. Meanwhile, what the hell was that? Said Naruto as he picked himself up. As Minma looked over at him, he just waved his hand, and we were sent sailing away like that. It seemed to be some sort of forced energy, said Naruto. As they watched, the six paths of pain stood there. The one in the center had his hand raised before he lowered it. As Naruto cracked his neck, he was still holding on to his blade in his other hand. Well then, he said, let's try something. As he created two clones. As Minma's shoulders started to shake a bit as two wooden clones emerged from his body, the four clones rushed forward as he flashed through hand sign. As the two clones of Naruto took in a deep breath, while the two clones of Minma held out their hand. Combination attack, Raging Inferno. As a blast of fire and air was combined, the Inferno was large. As Naruto watched, that fat one jumped in the way, and he absorbed the technique. So they can absorb ninjutsu, said Minma. Well, seems like these guys are more complicated than we thought. Well, the Rinnegan is supposed to be a lost dojutsu. Figures there's much that we don't know about it, said Naruto. You see the way they're set up? Minma nodded. Yeah. That one at the back, he's being protected by the others. Perhaps he's the healer, said Naruto. After all, That is how things are set in this world. The healer is the last one to die, so that he could heal the others. That one right there is at the front, to absorb ninjutsu. The one in the center is a heavy hitter. And those two at the side, I'm unsure what they do. Naruto watches along here. One went to hand sign. Summoning jutsu. There was a poof. Naruto watches a massive rhino came charging forward. Minma went through hand sign, wood style, wood binding technique as he slammed his hand down. 3 vines grew from the ground and wrapped around the massive rhino before launching it towards all of the paths of pain. They jumped out of the way as the thing smashed into the wall and poofed away. Suddenly, Naruto watched as the one that just summoned rushed towards him, and the other one rushed towards Minma. As a human path and the animal path came forward, the animal path went through hand sign. Summoning jutsu, he said, as Naruto heard a growl. The next thing he knew, a massive dog came pouncing down towards him. As Naruto moved, Uzumaki style, 2 consecutive slices, he said, as he moved. He was standing behind the dog now as the thing split, as Naruto blade had tear right through it. But to his surprise, the thing pounced towards him. As Naruto jumped, it destroyed the ground. As Naruto was in mid-air, he looked. Somehow it was able to survive that, and now it had 2 heads instead of 1. As Naruto looked up as the animal path came down with a brutal dropping kick, Naruto brought his arms above his head as the kick dropped into his guard. He was launched like a bullet. His feet slammed into the ground as he landed right on his feet, destroying it. The dog came rushing towards him as Naruto flashed through a hand sign. Ice release. Ice spikes, he says, he touched the ground. From the contact where he touched, ice spread out. The dog was impaled several times. As Naruto watched, once again the thing separated and reformed. Now it had 5 heads. The thing came charging back towards him. As Naruto pulled out 4 kunais, he threw it all around the dog. Naruto placed a single seal forward as the dog was shocked. Stuck in the middle, it tried to break through it. It was once again electrocuted as it was trapped in an electric barrier. As Naruto turned as he blocked a fist that slammed into his guard. The animal path then twisted as he brought his leg around as Naruto ducked. As Naruto came up with the thing, pulled back his head without even looking at him. As Naruto was shocked, he brought his arm around and tried to backhand Naruto as Naruto ducked away. Using his blade, he cleaved forward, but the animal path jumped away. Naruto heard an explosion as he watched as the human path was sent sailing forward as it crashed into the ground. Minma landed beside him. Something is wrong. They're predicting my movements without even looking at me. I noticed, said Naruto. Look at their eyes. As Minma saw it, they can see through each other's eyes. Yeah, it's a guess, said Naruto. You can feel it, can you? Yeah, said Minma. All of them are sharing the same chakra system. The same chakra is pumping through all of their veins. They're just puppets. Someone is controlling them, said Naruto as he turned his head. As he looked towards the far, highest tower where that woman was standing. She hadn't moved from that spot. Judging by her standing there, I guess she's protecting someone. In case that we do defeat all of them. Tendo narrowed his eyes as he was shocked. They were smart. Incredibly so. But he wouldn't say anything. He needed to finish this quickly. Konan. As Konan came flying down. Take care of that other one. I will subdue the Jinchuriki now. Minma stepped forward. Don't worry, said Naruto. Just take her down. I already know what I need to know now. As he started to walk forward as Minma gave him a nod. Konan came flying forward as he dropped. Paper bomb down towards Minma as he leaped away as the era blew. Meanwhile, the remaining paths all flew towards Naruto with incredible speed. As Naruto stood there, waiting for them to approach, the first one to reach him was the human path that reached towards his neck. As Naruto tilted his body, the human path moved as several explosions came down and decimated the area. As the robot path dropped right in the smoke, a buzzsaw emerging from his back as he shed his cloak. They heard a cackling sound as they looked around, but they could not see anything. Suddenly, the entire ground exploded, a massive surge of lightning erupting from the ground. It did not stop though as it twirled in the air. The surge of lightning roared, revealing that it was a dragon. It came crashing down towards them. The revival path stepped forward and held up his arms. As he started to absorb the technique, his eyes then went wide when poof! Naruto appeared out of nowhere. A brutal kick after his sudden appearance smashed into his face. The creaking sound could be heard as his entire face was decimated on contact. His body was sent sailing as he smashed through the buildings, crashing to a final stop in its largest tower possible. As Naruto stood there, his appearance had changed. Jiraiya noticed one of the clones were gone. Oh, so that's what he was doing. As he looked towards the other clones, focused on their appearance as they had changed Sage Mode. Naruto's eyes snapped towards the revival path who was moving towards the one that he just destroyed. As Naruto watched as the animal path came down towards him, he waited and then he smirked. Fuinjutsu, instant teleportation, and Naruto was gone. As Tendo's eyes widened when he noticed, in front of the revival path Naruto appeared. As Naruto was standing right on top of the absorption path head. Tendo's eyes widened as the revival path looked down and saw there was a marking on the absorption path. But when did he? As Naruto had marked him with a Fuinjutsu marking teleport right towards him, the hulking mass of the revival path sent a fist straight towards Naruto. As Naruto noticed that the others were coming as well, he raised his hand to the sky. Lightning release. Solar flare, he said, as a massive beam of light exploded from where he was. It was like a surge of electricity that swallowed the air in a bright light. A massive explosion was then followed. When the paths regained their vision to see, they saw the mangled remains of the two paths. As Naruto had his eyes closed, as Tendo snarled a bit, he raised his hand, universal pull, as Naruto felt himself be yanked forward. His eyes were still closed, but he could hear every single thing. His senses were enhanced to the point that he didn't need his vision to see what was going on outside. The human path reached towards his throat to grab him, as the animal path pulled a rod to impale Naruto on the ground. At the last moment though, Naruto slammed his hands together. Lava release. Spinning eruption, he said. His entire body just boomed into lava as it was dripping off him. His body started to spin at a rapid pace as he was being pulled straight towards Tendo. Hundreds of lava balls were emerged from him, forcing all the paths to leap away as they devastate the entire area, melting through buildings, destroying support beams as smaller buildings collapse. When Naruto finally stopped spinning, he stood there, surrounded by the four other paths that remained. He heard something as he turned to see the robot path gathering a massive amount of chakra at the tip of a cannon as he fired it. Naruto was about to dodge until he felt something as a force from Tendo slammed right into him, throwing him towards the robot path. He cursed crystal release. Jade Prison Shield, he said, as he slammed his hand together. A mass of crystal appeared on his body as the beam slammed into it. The beam literally tore into it, although it took away some of the pressure. As it slammed Naruto into one of the buildings, he broke right through it. The animal path flashed through hand sign this time. He summoned a massive ox that shot forward. As it charged towards the building, it came in only for something to come out before it reached. A rustling shuriken that whipped through the air slammed into the beast. A massive explosion went off, blindsiding all of them. Swift release, Naruto whispered. Godspeed. And just like that, he was gone. Zips of lightning ripped through the area as Naruto's body was kicked into 5 gear. He was moving so fast. The vision was being strained by the paths as Tendo raised his hand. Almighty push. He obliterated the far side of the area, only for it to hit nothing. The next thing he knew, the vision of the animal path was gone. When he turned, he saw Naruto holding on right to the ear of the animal path. He tossed it towards the human path. Tendo realized the last time what Naruto did, so the human path leaped out of the way. Fearing that Naruto had marked it, teleport right towards it. The human path launched 3 rods towards Naruto as they impale him. With that, Tendo raised his hand, universal pull as he yanked Naruto towards him. The robot path saw him coming as he created a few extra arms to grab onto Naruto. But before they could, Tendo noticed something off. almighty push as he blew Naruto away, but it was too late. Explosion release. Cosmic boom. As Naruto went off in that titanic explosion. As the human path was caught up, the robot and Tendo was able to jump away, but the human path was obliterated to dust. The real Naruto came from underneath the ground, as he was no longer in sage mode as he stood there. He launched 4 sets of kunai. As he placed them together, shuriken jutsu, they multiplied to 100. But the robot passed him to raise his hand as he released an explosion that turned him into dust. It doesn't matter what you do, said Tendo. You will still fall at the hands of God. Sorry, said Naruto. I don't waste time talking to lunatics. Meanwhile that was going on, Menma was standing on top of a tall building. As he looked up towards Konan who was flying in mid-air, she looked down towards him. She must say, they had underestimated them, as they were powerful than they thought. This won't end well, you know, said Menma. This village, this is your home. If this continues to go on, I assure you, you will lose more than us. To achieve my dream, there is nothing that you can say. To change my mind, she said to him. I suppose you're right, said Menma, after all. I want to protect my family, and my village. I suppose you're trying to do the same. But you went out of your way to try and hunt my brother, like he was some kind of animal. He was necessary for our cause. For your cause, huh? Said Menma. Igniting a war by killing people is the way to go about it. It wasn't hard to figure out that you guys somehow wanted war, taking the proposition from the Akatsuki. That thing that told us about Naruto's demise. I'm sure you're the one that sent him, that white creature. Konan did not answer. So, this war, what do you hope to gain from it? Perhaps it's the Bijus. Her face did not show anything or give away anything. After all, you came after my brother. You came to take him after all. But your Akatsuki scums, they fail. You underestimated my brother too much. You thought, just because you were extract descendants, that he would have won. For the past 4 years, we spent, time and time again, almost killing ourselves, to avoid this very same situation. So I assure you, this plan of yours will not succeed. As to make that more clear, Konan heard an explosion as he felt a vile, corrupted chakra exploded from over to the side. The entire village felt it. The chakra felt like death and destruction itself. As Menma looked towards her, let's end this, shall we? Meanwhile that was going on, as Jiraiya was still inside the barrier as he watched, as Naruto had 4 tails behind him. As Naruto was calm as he stood there, Naruto did not hesitate as he raised his head to the sky. He started to gather a black ball. Tendo, realizing the dilemma, raised his hand. But before he could do anything, one of the clones from the barrier shot forward. As he landed right in front of the 4-tailed Naruto and slammed his hand right into the earth. A massive crystal wall erupted. As Tendo almighty push slammed into it, it creaked and it broke. The moment it exploded though, a massive beam followed behind it. The beam teared through the air, rushing towards Tendo. The robot Pat jumped in the way with his own beam as he slammed it into it. The 4 tails roar as the beam power seemed to intensify and shredded. The robot pat down into nothingness. The 4 tails then moved as the explosion went off. He fired several smaller beams from his mouth that blew, tearing through the building that Tendo was standing in front of. Tendo dodged all of them as he flipped. He raised his hand as he blocked several small balls that came towards him that exploded. 3 giant tails ripped through the earth and came crashing down towards him as he leaped out of the way. Using the tails, he yanked himself towards Tendo. In a second, 6 tails formed behind him, a strange skeleton structure on his shoulder. As he came in like a bomb, he decimated the floor as he crashed into it, obliterating its section. Tendo was able to leap away. His cloak was torn. Markings over his chest badly burned. As he looked towards the 6 tails that rose back up towards his feet, the thing growled. As steam left its mouth, it started to shake as miniature explosive balls emerged from its body, before shooting right towards Tendo, who simply swift out of the way. He blew the ones that came too close to him. Tendo smashed his fist into the earth. The water came up like a tidal wave as it dropped like a massive wave down towards the Four Tails as it decimates the area. When everything cleared out, the place was drenched. As Jiraiya was still in his barrier, he still couldn't believe how strong Naruto had become. He looked up as he heard something smash into the building. As he saw Konan sliding down, there was blood rushing down her hand. Her hair was a mess, sweat over her brow as she was panting. Menma then returned. He had a few scratches over him. His shirt was torn badly. Seemed like he got hurt from an explosion. But his armor had protected him quite well. Konan looked towards Tendo before she flew straight away, using her remaining strength to just flee. As Naruto watched her as she went towards the building, he stood there along with Menma, as his body returned back normal in a second, showing how much control he had over the Fox power. As he looked towards Tendo, who looked towards the both of them, two rods dropped right in Tendo's palm as he shot forward. Both boys move as their blades clash with the two rods from Tendo. Tendo twists as he ducks as he drives the blades right towards their stomach. Menma blocked his as Naruto flipped over. Tendo looked up as he raised his hand at force, slam into Naruto, knock him in the ear. As Naruto twists his body in mid-air, creating a clone, he used the clone as a footing stool. As he pushed off, a Rasengan formed in his hand as Tendo moved. Naruto obliterated the ground. Naruto grabbed onto Menma's hand as he launched him. Menma flashed through hand sign, wood style entangling branches as he raised his hand outwards. Vines erupted from his hands trying to grab Tendo, but he simply leaped away. As Naruto looked towards him intrigued, he watched as Tendo settled down. Menma moved towards him again, but Tendo released an almighty push as Menma was launched back. Menma came to a stop. It's gonna be hard to get close to him, with him releasing that gravity force, said Menma. As Naruto whispers something to Menma, as Menma's eyes narrowed slightly. Got it, said Naruto, as Menma nodded. As he went through Hansline, wood style, wood serpent, he said, as a serpent emerged from the ground with yellow glowing eyes. Menma jumped on top of it as it shot forward. As Tendo saw it coming, he raised his hand as he released an almighty push. The serpent body recalled around Menma as the almighty push slammed into it. But the beast held on as it did not broke. Its body creaked, but it did not break to pieces. Once it was over, the beast shot forward. Tendo threw his rod right into his head as he disrupted the chakra inside. He realized that Menma was no longer on top of it. Wood style, wood locking hands as Menma slammed his hand together. Massive wooden hands erupted from the ground as he tried to grab Tendo. He jumped as he leaped away, landing on the terrace of one of the buildings as he looked down. As Nagato realized that this was bad, he then looked around as he didn't see Naruto anywhere. As Menma was gone as well, he then heard a sound. He looked up towards the top of the building as he heard something twirling. He saw Naruto jumping down towards him, a massive Rasen shuriken in his hand as he was dropping from the heavens. Tendo raised his arm. Universal pull, he said, as he pulled Naruto straight down before moving. Naruto's body smashed right into the building as the Rasen shuriken dissipated. Naruto picked himself up and launched towards him. He blew Naruto away. As Naruto crashed back in the building, the colors started to leave Naruto's face, showing that he was a wood clone. Collaboration jutsu, all element Rasengan. Tendo heard the voice, the combination voice of Menma and Naruto as he turned. As he saw the both of them, Jiraiya was shocked as he saw the two boys, their hands were held together. All nature was poured into the Rasengan. Lightning, wind, earth, water, fire, as the Rasengan was a shimmering ball of nothing but death and destruction. Tendo cursed, but they were too far away, so they could not get to him in time. As Naruto grabbed onto Menma's left hand that was not holding onto the Rasengan, Naruto turned with Menma as he launched him. Tendo tried to move, as they were now in mid-air. 3 more seconds. You won't make it on time. Tendo eyes widen as they hurl it. Tendo tried to move, but the thing ignites. The explosion swallowed the entire building as everything went white. Meanwhile, inside the tallest building, Nagato. Blink. As Conan stood there, "They're coming," said Nagato. Conan still couldn't believe it, as Nagato seemed angry but yet he was calm. All of his paths were defeated. These 2 boys, he underestimated them. They were a lot stronger than he thought, and now he was paying the price. His decoration of being a god had backfired on him. They were able to overpower him. He had heard thoughts about their intellect, but they were a lot smarter than he thought, able to figure out his abilities so quickly that they shared the same vision. They were indeed genius prodigies of their time. Here he was praising the enemy that was now coming for him. Conan stepped in front of him. "I won't let them take you," she said. He looked towards her. "You can still get out of here," he said, knowing, with the reputation that Naruto had, to never leave an enemy behind, they were surely gonna come to kill him. But Conan didn't have to die. "No," she said. "I will stand by your side as always," as she stood there, unwavering. As Nagato felt it, they were coming. Seems like Jiraiya was also coming as well, but he was lagging behind a bit. They did not take the traditional way. As Nagato watches a massive wooden arm rip into the side of the building before tearing it out. The massive wooden golem stood there, the 2 boys on top of his shoulder. Jiraiya was sitting on top of the thing's head, holding on. As both boys jumped off right to the edge of the building, looking inside. The light peered inside and Naruto had to say that he was surprised. This wasn't what he was expected. He came here for a fight, but now he was disappointed as he put away his blade. He saw the old cripple inside the machine. The weakened woman standing in front of him. Minma reeled a number on her. "So this is who you really are," said Minma. "No wonder you hide behind your puppets." As Nagato narrowed his eyes. "Wait," said Jiraiya as he came down, hopping on 1 foot. "I told you to stay behind," said Naruto. "And I told you, I'm going to talk to him first. Don't do anything rash." "Jiraiya-sensei." "I just tried to kill you," said Nagato. "Why do you wish to talk to me?" "I want to know why." "Why? What happened to you 3? "Yaiko. I can tell that he's no longer with us." "Nagato, Conan. What happened? What made you guys did this?" "The world, Sensei. It forced us to grow up. And we have changed our moniker and our name. We decided to change it and bring peace to this world." "Peace? You call hunting down the Jinchuriki state there bestows peace? Inciting this war? The way things are set up, it seems like you were the true mastermind behind this war. Pushing it. You realized that it would not ignite, so you pushed it, fueled the flames. To do what? Lure out the other tail beasts," asked Jiraiya. Nagato said nothing. "So we were right," Jiraiya said. "Many people will die. You of all people should know what war brings." "Of course I do," said Nagato. "That is why. Indeed, for this world to change, there has to be chaos. And then through that chaos, there will be peace." "What kind of peace are you preaching?" asked Jiraiya. "The peace that you searched for so long, Sensei, that you were unable to find. I finally found a way to bring it. And nothing will stop me from achieving my peace." Conan kept her eyes trained on Naruto, as he was not saying a single word. He just stood there. She had her eyes on Minma as well, but Naruto. She knew he was the one that always went for the kill. "So to bring peace," said Naruto, "you decided to bring war." "It is the only way," said Nagato. "There is no other way of peace." "If there's a way, tell me," he said. "I don't care," said Naruto. "What?" "This finding peace that Jiraiya over there went for, and my father. I've always thought that it was nothing but nonsense. As long as the shinobi is able to mold his chakra, As long as he's able to wield a weapon, there will never be peace. The world can be calm for a while, but peace is a dream that will never be achieved no matter what. That is where I disagree with you, said Nagato, because I found a way to bring peace, and it involves your death. As Naruto heard a clicking, one of the irons on the machine appeared at the front as it was launched, straight towards Menma. This was a perfect way. As Naruto was already ready for the attack, Menma on the other hand seemed more relaxed to listen to what he had to say. He just needed distraction. He just needed a second of distraction for Konan to subdue Naruto while he had his back turned. But Naruto caught it with one arm. No, in Sage Mode once again, after one of his clones dispelled, he held onto the rod. He turned and threw it straight towards Konan as she dodged. She tilted her head as the rod stabbed into the wall. Wait, said Jiraiya, but it was too late. Konan blinked. As Menma black-handed her away, she was sent sailing. As it gave Naruto the proper opportunity to move, Nagato tried to pull his arms, but it was too late. Swift release. As he felt something rip into his chest. Nagato looked down as a blade was currently buried in his chest. Blood leaked from his lips as Naruto looked him dead in the eyes as his blade had ripped right into him. Konan got back up, her eyes widened, wings spread from her back as she turned him towards Naruto to bombard him, only for a massive tree to explode from the ground as it aimed right towards her, knocking her right through the building. Jiraiya cursed as things escalated so quickly and it was already over. Before Konan could get up, a massive amount of water slammed into her, drenching her. As her body contacted through the beam as it smashed right in the earth, Menma landed right over her. Before she could do anything, he placed his hand right in her chest. She felt something burning into her skin. The next thing she knew, her body felt weak. She started to grow weaker and weaker. As she looked down, as she saw there was a seal glowing on her chest. It started to spread across her body, under her cloak. It had burned right into her cloak, as Menma's hands were glowing red. As she fell unconscious, Nagato, that was the last thing she was able to say. Meanwhile, Jiraiya cursed. We could have done this another way. There is no other way. Haven't you realized he tried to kill us, said Naruto. As Nagato's head was drooping. I see. You're truly as ruthless as they say. At least you're someone that doesn't go back on his words. You said you came here to kill me, and that is what you've done. Before you die, said Naruto, tell me, where's the man with the orange spiral mask? Ah, I see. So you're after him, aren't you? Where is he, said Naruto. I'm afraid I don't know. Naruto grabbed him by the throat. Talk, as he started to squeeze. As Nagato's raspy voice came out, I'm telling you the truth. I do not know where he's located. You want revenge for what he did to your sister. Is that correct? You're the leader. I suppose you send out that order, said Naruto, as Naruto started tightening his grip even more. I'm afraid that wasn't me, said Nagato, as he looked towards Naruto, more blood leaking from his mouth. Well, it doesn't matter, said Naruto as Menma appeared, as he had Konan bound. As Nagato looked towards his sensei, Sensei, would you grant the dying man one final wish? As Jiraiya looked towards his ex-student, Konan does not deserve slice. He couldn't get to finish that sentence, as Naruto took his head clean off. Jiraiya watched as the head was sent sailing, before Naruto grabbed the red hair as he held it up. The information can be extracted, and these eyes, they're too powerful to fall in the wrong hands. As Naruto pulled out a scroll, as he placed the head down in the scroll, and he sealed it away. As Jiraiya looked towards him, not saying anything. As Naruto paused, looking down towards the ground floor of the village where he saw ninjas mobilizing. Seems like the chaos has finally reached them. Naruto said, Jiraiya, As Naruto glanced back at him, do you really believe there is no way to find peace? That all of this will still conflict into war? How many years have you tried for, Sensei? Have you found peace yet? Jerry could not answer that question. Well then, people like you are just gonna waste your life searching for this so-called peace, but they will never find it. Because there is none. As long as people can wield kunai, peace will never be achieved in this world. They will just be calm moments, and then chaos once again. We have to leave. As of right now, they had no idea what happened here. This will just ensue more enemies against the Hidden Leaf. If the Hidden Rain was to join into this war, it is done, said Naruto. What is done, said Menma. I'll be erasing all presence of us being here. What do you mean by that, said Jiraiya. As Naruto held his hand out, explosion release. Jiraiya's eyes went wide, but before he could say anything, it went off. All the ninjas down below that saw the wooden vines, all the wooden shrapnels that will link them back towards Menma and Naruto. That was the last thing that they saw. As Naruto activated the explosion release after having his clone plant the explosive on the ground, everything was decimated. Explosions rang through the entire court. A few ninjas that arrived were turned into bodies of meat and gore and flesh as they were obliterated. Jiraiya watched as Naruto stood there, as he did not show a hint of remorse, as he watched the people being torn to shreds. That was uncalled for, he said. I told you, we cannot have this coming back to Konoha. This will just gain another enemy. Besides, we still need to get information forcefully if we have to, said Naruto, as he looked towards Konan. Jiraiya was a loyal member of the Leaf, but Konan, after what Nagato said, perhaps he could just get her to answer the questions before they decide to use other means. Minato would listen to him. With that, the group moved off as they took from behind the building, moving. The moment they were far enough, the building top exploded, wiping out all trace of them ever being here, as Naruto was indeed sure about wiping away their trace of being here. Time skip. The group had to stop. After all, they couldn't just run straight back to Konoha. They came to a stop in one of the many forests. Konan had finally woke up, as the sleeping toxin in the seal had finally wore off, but she couldn't use her chakra, she couldn't shed her body into papers. The first thing she saw when she woke up was nothing but darkness. Ah, you're awake. As she saw Jiraiya standing there, he was completely fine. After all, Menma was taught by Tsunade, both her and Naruto in medical ninjutsu, so it wasn't hard to fix Jiraiya's wounds. As she looked around, realized they were no longer in the rain, and that could only mean one thing. I'm sorry, he said, but Nagato was gone. She clenched her fist, but she kept herself calm, as she looked around not seeing anyone else. Why am I still alive, she asked. Information, he said. And Nagato didn't want you to go out the same way that he did. You were my student once, Konan, and I still care about you. Are you sure that is wise to say, she said. Given the attitude of that boy, he might as well kill you as well. Huh. Yeah. Naruto is strict when it comes to certain things. But the fourth Hokage is my student, you know. I will find a way to know. Nagato is gone. So is Yaiko. It's time for me to go as well. Don't say that, he said. Don't just forfeit your life like that. There are still many things that you can do. Like what, Sensei? Be a prisoner for the rest of my life. If you still care about me as your student, as you say, you would kill me right here, right now. I doubt the Hokage is going to be lenient on someone who plotted for his son's death. I can talk to him. It doesn't matter, she said. Everything is ruined. I can't kill you, he said. Well then, it's a waste of time talking, as she went quiet. As she just sat there, Jiraiya sighed, as he tried to form a conversation with her, but nothing was working. She ignored him. Meanwhile, that was going on, as Naruto stood on top of a tree looking off into the far distance. He felt something as Menma appeared beside him. You okay? He asked. I'm fine, said Naruto. You don't look fine, said Minma. Well, your eyes must be deceiving you. As Naruto kept on looking off into the distance. Well, we got rid of the Akatsuki. Something is not adding up, said Naruto. What do you mean by that? This masked man. I don't believe that he was on there. The control of negative. I believe that he is the one in control. Huh? You really believe that? I thought he was the one in control with the Rinnegan and all. No. The way he spoke about him, it's like he barely knew anything about him. Well, it doesn't matter. We will gather information once we return. Yeah, and we can find that bastard, and end this once and for all. Well, not just yet, said Naruto. Remember, we still have a war. Yeah, right, said Minma. Did you actually just forgot about the war, said Naruto? Of course not, said Minma. I was just, you know. Dumbass, said Naruto. What, said Minma? You heard me, said Naruto. As he sat down. As Minma chuckled a bit. What's so funny, said Naruto. I'm glad to see you acting this way. That everything is finally returned back to normal. We'll just have to wait and see, said Naruto. Meanwhile, at the hidden stone, as Oniki, standing in front of him was Kitsuki and Kurosaki. As Kitsuki pointed at the map, this is the best way, through the hidden stone. As Oniki nodded, you'll be leading a force of 1,000 strong, to make sure that we can march to the hidden rain. As Kitsuki nodded, Kurosaki, you'll be joined up with the others around the east, to corner the land of fire. Once we're able to breach into the land of fire, following the supports of Kumo, that is when the real battle began. Kurosaki clenched her fists. If we had our Jinchurikis, we could have launched an attack that devastated the land of fire. As Oniki seemed pissed off at that. They won't be holding them for much longer, and we will get the 9 tails once this is all over. What about the Raikage? Did he tell you about when you'll be dispatching Jinchurikis? Asked Kitsuki. He's unwilling to give me that information at the moment. We're not on very good terms at the moment as we speak. I believe after this war, after the both of us have recovered some, he will attack our village. Well, we'll just have to attack him first, said Kurosaki. She would not let the stone fall, as Oniki nodded. The plan detail was laid out, as he then went towards the war room to inform the others. Later that night, Kurosaki found herself in her village. She didn't know what was going on. As she looked around her, there was fire everywhere, screaming, explosions. She felt afraid. Someone was marching towards her. Hundreds of ninjas ran towards him, but he slaughtered them all. When he finally reached towards her, she saw his eyes. Those colorful eyes. Its hands stained in blood as he grabbed her by the throat. I told you that you better pray I won't be the one coming back, because if I did, this is what will happen. As he turned her to look towards her village, Kurosaki saw everything was destroyed. That was the last thing she saw. She felt a cold blade slice across her throat. She jumped out of bed as she looked around. She panted as she looked around her room. She slammed her fist into the wall. She has been having that dream for the past couple of nights, ever since that damn idiot escaped. She still couldn't believe that he got away, and he took her 2 Jinchurikis. The morale for the village was still strong, even though most might not recognize it, but some people saw it. They had no Jinchurikis. The stone only had 2. Konoha was famous for their Fuinjutsu, and not to mention Minma and his damn brother was known as the best. No one knew if he had full control of the Nine-Tailed Fox, but if he did, that would be a big hindrance on their side. Things didn't look so good, but the morale was still there. The hidden stone will not fall. Her grandfather will make sure of that, and she will as well. She will be the next Tsuchikage after all. They will be given the commands and the orders. Meanwhile at Kumo, it was underground. B was not underground. Well, things were different between them. He was Raikage's brother. Although she was a Jinchuriki as well, she was not treated the exact same way. Things had been hard on her ever since she was younger, Yujito. But her mind was currently on him when that day that they fought, when he almost killed her if it wasn't for Darui. Even while she was unconscious, he was coming to take her head off. She had heard his last words. You're dead. The war was starting very soon. By the end of the week, the war will be beginning. The troops have already been given the lay of the land, and they will be moving across the mountainsides to make their way around so they can regroup with a stone group that will pass through the eastern sides and surround the land of fire. Her role in this battle has not yet been placed, but she doubts that she will be sent out at the same time as B. They would send her first to test the lay of the land. She was to cause as much destruction as possible, dealt as much damage to the enemy. Even if she fall, she would die with disgrace if she didn't do that. It was her job to protect Kumo no matter what. Doesn't matter the odds. She would be fighting thousands of ninjas, and it terrified her. She knew that if he came after her, she would most likely be dead. She had gotten strong over the past years to protect herself, but she heard about his exploits as well. But still, she was a proud Kunoichi of Kumo, and she will not die without a fight, and she will give him one hell of a fight. Meanwhile, that was going on. So, you haven't told him about their involvement in the Edo Tensei? No, the mastermind says. He looked down towards Kabuto. So what about the Raikage's father? And their second Tishikage? Once the war begins, it no longer matters, the mastermind said. Just get them ready. Oh, they will be ready. With that, the mastermind walked off, leaving Kabuto to himself. He was enjoying how the world was playing out, while he would be watching from the background, just to see how everything went. Who will win this war? Who will lose? The masked man came to a stop and Zetsu rose up from the ground. Something happened, he said, as he turned towards him. What? But guys, be ends episode right here. If you want to see the next part, do like, subscribe, comment down below, and turn on that bell notification as they posted. Remember, share to all of your friends in your social media platform. And also, guys, go ahead and check out the brand new episode of What If Naruto Became the Next Avatar over on Anime King 2 and enjoy that, guys. And stay tuned for a brand new episode coming over on Anime King 3, which I hope you guys enjoy. But for now, I'm out for you. See you guys soon. Peace.